everyone, this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. Hey, if you haven't seen it yet, Wild Word Chapter 3 is out. It was originally an hour long and way too much work, and I just wanted to get it out there as quickly as I can, so I decided I would break it up into two parts. And the first part is up now, and part 2 will be coming up soon. But because it is currently December and apparently this is when you're supposed to be going all in on posting, I figured I should make a video about a topic that's been quite highly asked about on my channel, and that is how I draw. So I'm going to be making a series just detailing some of my processes on particular parts of drawing, I guess, because there's so many aspects to it, and answering some frequently asked questions that I get in my comments sometimes. Today we are going to be talking about sketching and line art. So if you want to sketch and draw line art like me, then make sure you watch all the way to the end of the video. Let's dive right into it. So first things first, let's start with the tools. In almost every video I make, I get at least one person asking what drawing software I use. And so to answer that question, for my preferred drawing software, I use Clip Studio Paint, though I am currently trying to get used to Procreate as well, just because I have an iPad now and I bought the program. But in my personal opinion, it still doesn't compare to Clip Studio Paint, especially if you've gotten used to the user interface, which can be a bit intimidating for people trying it for the first time just because there are so many options. But trust me, if you have all those options and are used to those options in Clip Studio Paint, and then you go over to something that's a bit more simplified like Procreate, you really miss those options. Most artists will also make brush sets for both Procreate and Clip Studio Paint, so it's very easy for you to import the same tools that you might be using for Procreate onto Clip Studio as well. The brush I will be using for line art and sketching is the Everything brush by iUpes, which you can get for free for Clip Studio Paint or for only $1 for Procreate on her Ko-fi shop. Now for the physical drawing tool, I have been using the Artist Pro 14 Generation 2 from XP Pen. I was actually sent this a few months ago, and since those few months, I've been using it religiously, and can I just say, I'm probably never gonna go back to a non-laminated drawing tablet ever again. So if you don't know what laminated means, it just means that you are drawing directly on the LCD screen itself with no glass separating your pen tip from the actual LCD screen. And the color accuracy has also been pretty much the best I've ever gotten from a drawing tablet. Now, what this means is that it offers way more accuracy and also reduces parallax. If you guys don't know what parallax is, it's basically a discrepancy between where you are currently holding your pen versus where the cursor actually is on the screen. And with the Artist Pro 14, I find that there's basically zero parallax, and honestly, I'm obsessed. That was one of the reasons why I decided to get an iPad Pro, was because of that fully laminated screen. So I'm so excited to actually have a full drawing tablet that also had a laminated screen. And on top of that, the screen also has 16,000 pressure levels, which is insane to me. Though I personally haven't really noticed a difference between all of my other tablets. Maybe it's because it's just too big for my small little mind to comprehend. The tablet also comes with a battery-free pen, which has tilt support, and also comes with a super nice case and a variety of replacement tips that give you a different texture. Personally, I prefer this particular pen tip that makes it feel like you're drawing on paper. And you also get this little remote device that lets you program your shortcut keys and a dial to help you zoom in and out and change brush sizes whenever you need to. And this can be programmed to specific applications, but I personally still prefer using my keyboard because look at it, it's Cinnamoroll. The screen has a 1920 by 1200 resolution, which is pretty unconventional, but I haven't really noticed it personally, and I think the size is just right for me. The tablet itself comes with a built-in kickstand, but I just have it on this adjustable stand that I think is a lot better for ergonomic support. Some drawbacks I noticed about this particular tablet is that you can't really have the brightness up very high, or it gets really warm to the point that it's kind of uncomfortable to use because of how hot it gets. But other than that, the colors are super vivid and I haven't really had a problem with it. Now, this isn't to say that you need a big fancy fully laminated tool to draw or get the quality of drawings that I have, especially if you're just starting out. The tools really don't make the quality of drawing, in my opinion. It's really all about skill and being familiar with your personal drawing tool. I've seen lots of artists work and create masterpieces with way less. So don't think that you need the exact same tools to achieve the exact same result. The only reason I'm talking about this tablet and showing off its features is because people ask me what I use, and so I wanted to share with you guys today what I'm currently using. However, if you guys are interested in acquiring the tool that I'm using for yourself or maybe to give as a gift to someone you know, I do have some links in my description that you can use. The drawing I am making today is a Draw This in Your Style challenge from Fiona Polo, my good friend and fellow YouTuber. Go check out her channel, she makes some spectacular art commentary stuff. Plus, I figure what better way to showcase one's art style than a Draw This in Your Style challenge, right? So, for my sketching process, I always start off with the head and just basic shapes. I think the two most important parts to get in the correct position are definitely the actual head shape and the neck and shoulders, because having those can really help you determine the angle that you are drawing from and the basic pose you want to go for. As you can see from my sketch of the body, I like to work in segments. I separate the body into the upper torso, the midsection, and then do a little bikini line for the lower abdomen, and that helps me determine where the legs start. And for the arms, I like to divide them into two sections, the upper arm and the lower arm, which then connects to the hands. For the legs, I do a similar thing where I would break it down into two parts, the upper leg and the lower leg, and then the feet. I typically shape these segments individually so that I don't have to go over and redo them again in a second sketch because I'm pretty lazy, so I just try to get everything done in one go and do everything as accurately and as neatly as possible, which unfortunately means I do have a terrible habit of spamming the undo button, which is a habit I've been desperately trying to shake. The only thing that I would say makes my style of drawing unique would definitely be the eyelashes. I like to have my characters with big, bold eyelashes. I think the eyelashes are personally my most favorite part of drawing the eyes because it can really help your eyes pop and further define the eye shape. I love emphasizing lower lashes, and I think it just helps the eyes look a bit more balanced. For the hair, I usually start with the fringes first and work my way up towards the back of the head. This is probably not a very good technique, classically speaking, since you're supposed to start at the base of the hair, at the top of the head, and then work your way down, but this is how I do it, and I find that it helps me frame the face a lot better and draw more attention towards the face. Now, if you're wondering how I can figure out how long a segment should be or how the body would look like when it's folded or overlapping over one another, I kind of work things out purely on an instinctual level, because I guess it's a matter of habit where it's something that I don't really think about anymore, which is pretty bad because I'm just doing things intuitively, and it really shows if you stack my drawing up against other artists who have better foundations in body dynamics. I didn't start off my art journey learning to draw in the most conventional ways because I was self-taught, and I self-taught myself through tracing and actually using bases for a majority of my digital art career, at least in the early days when I was like a child on DeviantArt, so it was pretty commonplace back then. But one thing I would do whenever I used bases was that I would trace every single part of the character. I wouldn't just draw over it with like hair and clothes and stuff. I would actually trace the actual base themselves, including the faces, so the eyes, the irises, and the nose and the mouth. And that kind of helped me get a feel for proportions and how to translate different angles and poses onto drawing. So when I eventually did learn to draw on my own, I kind of already knew where everything was meant to go and how everything should look. And of course, it also helps to just experiment and go with the flow and not be too rigid on the things you get taught in art class if you are taking art classes. And you know, depending on your art style, you might not need to be so super realistic anyway. So it just depends on your needs and what your art goals are. But to draw like me, you do require some minimal level of anatomy, just a tiny bit of realism. I mostly prioritize what looks right as opposed to actual realism or anatomical accuracy, so there's lots of room to play there. Now, I don't usually change the color of my sketches because I'm lazy and I just lower the opacity, but to help you guys comprehend it better, I've decided to do that here. And when it comes to my line art, the most important thing is really the line weight. And basically what that means is alternating between thick and thin lines in a single stroke based on your pen pressure. If you have a look at some lines and shapes I'm drawing here, you can see how pen pressure or line thickness can really create more depth to a certain shape or even create an illusion of lighting. Now, as for how I determine which parts of the line should be darker and which parts should be lighter, I try to think of light placement. Usually I will put darker lines where there would be shadow and lighter lines where the subject would be hit with light. I would also make darker lines at intersections, so wherever lines connected or wherever the line happens to curve. The lining stage is also where I begin doing corrections, so if something doesn't look quite right when translated into line art, that's usually when I would start adjusting and kind of foregoing the sketch, I guess. For instance, when I was working on the character's hand over here and seeing that it didn't look quite right, so this is when I would be able to make that adjustment to make it look a bit better. Sometimes it can be really hard to see what the final result will look like on a sketch because of all the overlap, so you don't really tend to notice these things until you get to the line art stage. So the lining stage for me also serves as the correction phase where I tweak and just fix things that look a bit off or things that I'm not too happy with, to adjust until I'm happy with how the overall illustration looks. A good way to do this, and one of the reasons why I prefer using Clip Studio over Procreate, is because of the thumbnail widget that you can see on the right hand corner of my screen there, where you can see the entire picture being displayed as you're drawing. It's a really good way to see if the features you want to stand out are actually standing out, or if they're blending too much. And it's just one of those little things that you don't really see the significance of, or even notice or know that you need until you have it and you realize how much it actually benefits you. Because most of the time when you're looking at drawings, you're not going to be looking at it from a super zoomed in perspective where the details would look like they make sense. They'll be looking at it from a very zoomed out perspective where smaller details can kind of get drowned out. So it's really important to work on your thumbnails in order to make your drawings immediately more eye-catching. Another thing I was trying to correct was the face shape, because once again, despite how it looked on the sketch, when I started lining it, it just looked completely off. So just a quick lesson for you guys: you don't have to follow your sketch exactly. You're completely free to change it if it needs changing at any point. While you can pre-download patterns onto CSP to make drawing patterns like this a lot faster, I decided to do this manually, mostly because I'd lost my sweater pattern that I had pre-downloaded. But you know, it's okay, we can practice our line work instead. And this was actually a lot more fun than tedious like I was expecting. I always find that doing repetitive patterns might seem a bit intimidating at first, but it can actually be very therapeutic, and it literally took no time at all. Another correction to be made was the nose, because I'd changed the angle of the face when I readjusted the head position. Sometimes when you're drawing the face, because the face is not two-dimensional and has parts of it that are more raised than others, the nose will sometimes overlap with the eyes and obscure a bit of it. And sometimes that can really suck if you're particularly proud of the eyes, but you still gotta do it anyway, because you'll end up with much nicer results that are worth it in the end. And here is the final line art. I readjusted the eyes a little bit to make up for the fact that she does have her mouth slightly open and she's smiling, just to connect her expressions a bit better. And I also adjusted the length of the arm that was on the table and the length of her neck. Let me know what you think of my line work and sketches in the comments below, and let me know if any of these tips are useful to you. If you want to see my coloring process, then stay tuned, because I'll be releasing another video about that as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in the pond for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. Big shout out to my lovely pond dwellers on Patreon, and welcome to all my new Patreon members. If you want to become a pond dweller and get early access to my content, join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art or chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want more of my stories, check out my Wild Word series here on YouTube, because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!